changing very dramatically, and we're doing a lot more production on less acreage. And so, that's a big trend. And so I don't think we want to be overly concerned about loss of acreage. I think there are great opportunities in it for people who are innovative and, listening to what the market has to say, particularly growing for the fresh market. 60% of what we grow at this point is going into processing. Apple sauce, fresh cut apple slices, apple cider vinegar, juice, all those things.
You even get apple slices at McDonald's now.
Yes, those are, here in Michigan,
How do they
those are
keep them
Michigan
from turning
apples.
brown?
Well,
or is that a
secret formula, but I don't know enough to be dangerous, so I can say it's an all-natural compound. It is similar to a citric acid. And
is that something, do you have something you would recommend on your website if you wanted to keep your apple slices from turning brown at home?
I would say use your
Just
cookbook and lemon juice. Eat them fast. We always like that. Eat them fast and buy more is our main slogan. But also dipping them in lemon juice will retard that oxidation. But that's a very specialized treatment. It gives them about 21 days of shelf life. It's being done by Peterson Farms up in the Hart-Shelby area. And that has really been a boon for the apple industry.
They're doing that for McDonald's?
Yes.
It's a Michigan producer?
Yep, they're Michigan
and
apples.
And they're treating them before they send them to...
When you cut them, if you went in the facility, it's almost surgical in nature. They're totally, foot bath, it's cold, they're in garb that will make it totally a sterile environment, so there's no contaminants. And then as the apple's cut, the surface is sealed with this... again, it's like a citric acid. It is a licensed, patented formula and all that kind of stuff. But what that's really doing is opening up whole new avenues of consumption, because now you can see apples on the salad bar and they don't, brown. You can see them in salads at McDonald's. You can see them for kids, and they've got that a couple, 2-3 week shelf life, so that,
So that's been a great innovation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's helping people. We farmers, or we in the industry, think of this as a very handy snack. It's all self-contained, but the reality is, apple is just like eating chips. Apple slices are ready to go. There's no, messing up of your lipstick or getting it on your desk at work. It's just a much more ready to eat product, and technology has kind of brought that to us. So I think it's a real, in the age of childhood obesity, it is a wonderful snack.
How are apples harvested these days? Are there machines yet that will shake the tree like a cherry tree, or do they all have to be picked by hand?
That is a great question, and 100% of the apples in Michigan are picked by hand. We grow anywhere from 1.5 to 2 billion with B apples every year, and every single one is picked by hand. Virtually all done by migrant labor. So we have, just an enormous challenge. We probably pick our first apples, let's say the second week of August, and by Halloween we've had to gear up to pull 2 billion of them off the tree. Everyone by hand, and not bruised, because nobody wants to buy a bruised apple in the grocery store.
The cherries are amenable to the machine, and that's maybe what they don't bruise, or they fall off when they're ripe.
They go all into processing.
Yeah.
When you're processed, if we were going into applesauce, we wouldn't care about that bruise. But you don't want to go into your grocery store and pick one up with a big bruise, because it
just doesn't work to shake them off and catch them in a basket.
No, there are people looking at robotics, but I think that's way down the line for us. But at this point in time, we're really using a guest worker program. It is strictly migrant workers. They're working for us for maybe 8 or 10 weeks. And so, that's really a very important, it is probably the #1 concern of our industry. Immigration reform is one thing, and this country has to figure that out. But a guest worker program, even in Michigan, the way that our economy has been, this is not a job that Americans want. They don't want to pick asparagus up in Hart for 4 weeks and then come down and pick blueberries for 3 weeks. Nobody's going to move their family all over. That's just not what we do, and it's too far to commute. So it's really a very specialized and skilled workforce that picks the apples for us. So,
are there many people who maintain maybe a very small orchard of 1 or 2 trees just for their personal use? And do you have advice for those people? Could I get an apple tree and put it in my backyard and be able to grow my own apples, or is that going to be more work than it's worth?
Well, it depends how you define more work than it's worth, but certainly it can be done. There are plenty of hobbyists. My parents have got a few apple trees and a couple of peach trees. What
Do you need a license?
don't need a license to do that, not yet. But what is very difficult is, diseases and insects are just ever present in the environment. And apple scab is one that just every time it rains, that microorganism, that fungus is right there. It doesn't take more than about 4 hours of moisture, and it's able to penetrate the skin of the apple, the leaf of the apple, and you have an unsightly fruit. So certainly people can do it. I think that what you're finding is that, leave it in the hands of the professionals, and they do a great job.
So it's not, there is some work involved. It's not just plant a seed in your backyard and pick apples 5 years later.
No, unfortunately it's not. I think any hobbyist you find will be very up on the spraying and the insect control and that sort of a thing. One of the biggest innovations we've had going in Michigan, probably over the last 15 years, is something called IPM. It's Integrated Pest Management, and it has dramatically changed the way that we use chemical controls on fruit. In fact, our insecticide use has dropped 70% over the last 15 years. It's a very dramatic change. Integrated Pest Management, I brought this little card that I can show. This shows the ladybug on it. This is integrated pest management can be good bugs eating bad bugs, like the ladybug. Eats aphids and all kinds of other insects, praying mantises. There are wasps, different kinds of things like that. There are also organic substances that can be used to control some insects, some diseases. There are people now, I don't know if you're aware of it, but we have people whose job is to be an insect scout. And say they go out in the orchard, they use traps, they're called sticky traps, and they monitor the insect population, and the old bell-shaped curve, once you get to a certain population, then that's the time to spray. That is way different from when I started my career 20 years ago. You were spraying every other Monday.
Having a regular schedule.
Yeah, you were going by the calendar, and now we're spraying on a need basis, and it's just much better for the environment, and really has been an innovation. It's good for the growers, good for the environment, good for the apples, and we're getting more complete control of our insects that way. So that's just a quiet little revolution, I think, that's gone on in the fruit business that's a little bit sciencey that the public may not know about.
That's interesting. Well, Denise, we only have a couple minutes left, and is there anything else my constituents in Kalamazoo and Van Buren County should know about the Michigan Apple Committee?
Well, we would just urge people to keep buying apples, especially as we go through the holiday season into the new year. It's a great, healthy snack.
You're supporting Michigan's economy. And
supporting Michigan's economy. Agriculture, of course, is our second largest sector of the economy. You made a point earlier that I just want to emphasize. 85% of Michigan's fresh apples like this are sold in bags. And so if a person wants to buy Michigan apples, they need to be looking for bags. Mesh bags, plastic bags. The ones that are out loose are more often Washington apples. And so if people want to support their local economy and Van Buren and Kalamazoo counties, look for the Michigan apples
buy
in
a whole
bags.
bag, not just one or two.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Denise. Thanks for coming on my program. Thanks for watching Current Events. I'll be back next month with another guest.